This episode is brought to you by Precision Fuel and Hydration, a proud supporter of the Inside Running podcast. It keeps us fueled on our long runs and races. Are you training for your next big race and still guessing your nutrition? Inside Running Podcast listeners, 2026, this is the year you stop winging it. Precision Fuel and Hydration is the answer. Their free online planner helps you nail your sodium and carb intake so you don't fade when it matters most. Visit precisionhydration.com, and while you're there, place your first order and get 15% off when you use the code IRP2026.
That your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Under
Today I'm joined by the Australian 10-kilometre and half marathon record holder who is fresh off a 16th place finish at Boston in a time of 2:25.06. Welcome back to the Inside Running podcast, Izzi Batt-Doyle. How are you, Izzi?
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, good to be back on. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, you're not back in Australia yet. Where are you today?
I'm actually in Seattle. So where I went to college was the University of Washington in Seattle on the west coast of America. So yeah, just decided to take some time after the race and hang out over here. So flew across from Boston and just spending the rest of the week here in Seattle.
Yeah, nice. And 2:25.06, happy with the result?
I think we'll unpack it a bit today on the show, but yeah, I guess overall now probably having some time to kind of decompress after the race. I am proud of the result and think all in all it was a pretty good effort and result, but definitely, yeah, not satisfied, and I was fairly disappointed when I crossed the finish line, and actually in the race itself when things were kind of starting to go poorly. I was fairly disappointed, but it was such a cool experience that it's hard to be disappointed or negative about it, especially like now that time's passed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, I guess, the race and race day itself, because this is the first time you've done Boston, so it's a bit of a unique experience where you have to catch a bus out to the start, and I guess it's a fairly long bus trip. What was that like in the pro bus?
Yeah, I think we had a pretty different experience. I mean, my mum ran the marathon too, and so hearing like her experiences, and obviously Brady and Jordan and the others I caught up with, we were pretty lucky. Like we met in a room downstairs at the hotel fairly early, like 6:15 I think we were supposed to sort of start coming in, and then on the bus at 6:50. And our race started at, I think, 9:47. So it's a fairly long time period to be like ready to go. I think other races, normally I'd be only eating breakfast at that time. So you kind of had to plan things a little bit earlier and just logistically work out how you're going to fit in, like when you're going to eat your breakfast, have your Nomeo shot, those kind of things. But yeah, I think for us it was pretty chill. Like we literally just walked through the hotel, got straight onto a bus. We actually had a police escort along the highway, so there were no other cars on the roads. You could just see like a police motorcycle in front of the bus. There was a big like pro athlete sign on the bus, and I could see as we drove past on the highway a lot of police cars on the side, like just with big stop signs holding traffic up to come onto the highway. So we literally had like a clear shot 40-minute drive down to Hopkinton. Yeah. And yeah, it was pretty chill. Once we got there, we had like a big athlete kind of tent. lots of yoga mats, and it was heated inside there too. So yeah, really kind of well looked after, but it did feel like a lot of time. That's all.
And what's the vibe like in that bus? Was it were you on a bus just with the elite females or the males there? Were you chatting to anyone, or everybody's just doing their own thing?
We had a couple of buses, like I think there was probably 2 male buses and 2 female buses, because it wasn't just like the top elite staying at the hotel. It was all of the kind of like elite field came to the hotel, came in that room, and then got put on the bus in like alphabetical order. So agents and coaches are allowed to go out. You can have one person travel with you. Nick Batt-Doyle was over there as like my agent coach, and Riley came as well as like my guest. And like, yeah, I paid for him to come and all that, but he was still staying in the hotel and able to be with me, and he could have come on the bus too. But we chatted about it like before the race, and essentially, you know, this marathon's been going for how many years, and everyone's always just said like it's too hard to go out on the bus with the athletes because you miss the whole race and you end up just kind of like driving out in a bus, then driving back on the highway and just watching it on your phone. So a few athletes and coaches came out on the bus too, like agents, sorry. Sarah Hall and Ryan Hall were behind me on the bus. I chatted to them a little bit on the bus, but yeah, I was just alone listening to music, but then my earphones went dead, so I was just listening to my own thoughts actually. But yeah, it was, I don't know, pretty chill experience, and I feel like there's nothing anyone else can do for me at that stage. It would be nice to have Riley just to chat to and to sort of like keep me calm and just relaxed, but I thought it was better for him to like, he actually ended up just watching the race with Nick and the other coaches and agents at the hotel in like a room, and then they kind of like went straight to the finish as athletes were coming in. It's just really tricky, especially after the bombings, you know, and these major marathons, they're so locked down that if you're actually out on course, even like a couple of 100 meters away, and you want to be then at the finish, you have to go through, I think, like metal detectors and kind of that kind of stuff to actually get into the finish area. So it was easy to be in the hotel and then just kind of go through there into the finish area for those coaches and agents.
Yeah. And so, yeah, talk us through the race, like how it played out, how you felt during different sections.
Yeah, so the race, yeah, it started, obviously we knew it was going to be a good weather day for Boston. You can have anything there, like hot, cold, like drastically cold as we saw in 2018, but we knew it was going to be a good day, a tailwind if anything, and pretty reasonable weather, but it would be actually quite cold. So I had everything ready, like arm warmers, gloves, headband, all that stuff, and it was pretty cold because it was that kind of weather where it's like sunny and crisp, but yeah, really cold, and you don't really warm up that quickly even when you start jogging. So I did a warm-up jog, and you know, we kind of go out to the start, and it was probably a good 15, even 20 minutes of, because I had no one there with me, no kind of overcoats on. Some athletes around me had their agent or coach there, and they kind of gave them their jacket as they literally went to the start, but we kind of had to be ready, I think 20 minutes beforehand, ready to go. And I got quite cold standing in the shade when we were kind of being held to go out to the start. But then we went to the start, saw Brady and Jordan at the front of the kind of next wave, which is pretty cool. And just when I actually got to the start and realised we were going to run downhill that aggressively to start, I was like, oh, wow. But yeah, it started, it wasn't that fast, I didn't think, just kind of settled into the pack, and I was kind of towards the front, but like probably in like the front group, just sitting back. I didn't really want to dictate any pace. I knew there was no reason to be aggressive. I think a couple of girls, Susanna Sullivan, who's an American girl, she went off the front by maybe even like 50 meters in those first few miles. But it felt like there was no real reason to even do that because we were just kind of rolling along the downhill. And I felt pretty good. Like I was just kind of sitting in. I kept finding like I couldn't find a particular groove because everyone seemed to be quite choppy with where they were running. It wasn't just like everyone was kind of finding a spot and running. And I think that's also the difference with a women's pack versus having just a few girls within, you know, a big group of guys. And I just noticed also like it got a bit crazy, like towards every drink station, there was a big pack of 20 of us, and to actually kind of like weave your way to get your drink was a little bit of like Tetris to do if you were in the pack. But I felt really good. I started to feel not so good around 11 miles. So I'm just, because there was more mile markers than Ks, I started to kind of work my head in the miles. But it was really just between like 11 and 13 that I was kind of a little bit off. Like I was going towards the back of the pack and it started to be a bit surgy. But I was pretty, comfortable that I was just having a bit of a patch where, would come good again. And I did come good and felt quite good through the halfway point. The Scream Tunnel was amazing. That was around 20K, I think, just before the halfway point. And I was smiling through there and like really enjoying the vibes and just couldn't believe how thick the crowds were and how loud it was through that Scream Tunnel. But yeah, sometime around after that, it must have been about 14 miles, there's kind of a little bit of an up section. And I was running with Sarah Hall and I just realized, I was like, my quads are like quite like banged up already. And it kind of got me a bit worried because it felt too early to be thinking about my quads. And I was also not even anywhere near the uphills yet. So that was the first sign of like probably fear for me, where I was like, I've got a long way to go and I'm not sure it's going to be good if I'm already feeling the pain now. So probably that's when I started to like, the race shifted for me to being like, try and conserve and like, don't do anything that's going to really hurt you, because I was scared of those uphills that were coming.
And do you ever, like at some point in the race, are you always conscious of what sort of time you're on track for, or when your quads start to sort of go on you, do you then just go, I'm not even going to look at the time anymore, I'm just going to run to effort?
I wasn't ever really looking at the time, just because I knew that wasn't really something that mattered in Boston. It was more about placing, and for me, I really thought that placing top 10 was achievable. So that was more just like staying in the pack and trying to be able to compete. And I only really saw just the halfway split that was 71. I didn't really pay attention to anything else other than that. So yeah, time was sort of out the window even from the start.
Yeah. And I suppose like the quads just got worse and worse, did they, over that last sort of 10K?
Yeah, it was really just my quads. And it's funny for me because I've been someone who's really struggled with my hamstrings and glutes before a marathon. So it was a completely different experience to have my quads sort of like fatiguing so quickly on me. And I was also just like frustrated because I was like, what? Like, I thought I was strong. Like, I thought I'd prepared for this. Like, why is this happening? But again, like, I think, yeah, upon reflection, like, I'm sort of also not surprised too. But it's a positive that my hamstrings and glutes weren't hurting. But yeah, I just sort of like, from that stage, it was kind of like survival. And it's a bit, yeah, it's too early for a marathon. Like, I knew from that stage, I knew I'd get to the finish, and at times I kind of worried if I might have to crawl it in, but yeah, it just was a matter of like one foot in front of the other and trying to tick down the Ks and miles and just trying to stay as composed as possible.
And were you pretty isolated at any point towards the back end of the race?
Yeah, I think I was running pretty much alone, just with Sarah Hall, and then she kind of dropped off just before we got to the big like uphills, and I was kind of chasing down Amanda Vestry, who was from Brooks. She ran really strongly. It was her second marathon. But yeah, everyone was really isolated at that stage from the people falling off the main pack.
Yeah, and when you crossed the finish line, you said before that you were a little bit disappointed. What were your sort of goals and expectations pre-race?
I thought that, yeah, as I said, like top 10 was definitely like within reason, and I thought that I could run quite a good time, like especially with the weather being quite good. So I thought like 222, 221 even, depending on how the race went. But yeah, it just wasn't to be. And I think my only like sad point is that I just really didn't enjoy, like, of course I enjoyed the experience, but after that, like once I got to the uphills, I actually was sort of like, oh my gosh, like thank goodness for these uphills. Like I kind of enjoyed the change in muscle group and all that. So, and I think Brady said this too, that the uphills didn't feel as bad as I anticipated. Like I thought that would be the really hard part, but it was just the downhills that smashed me, and that was surprising. So I was just confused. But when I finished, I was just like, honestly, like the wind was taken out. Like I was just so like cooked. I was just like, I'd really pushed, but my heart rate had dropped quite low because I was cold and I wasn't running that hard, but it was just my legs fatiguing. But I just felt like, yeah, like I couldn't even really stand up. I was like staggering as I finished. But yeah, I just wish I could have enjoyed the last like 10Ks, 15Ks more, because there was people everywhere and they definitely carried me through. Like those last few miles when I saw like 23 miles and I knew I had, a few miles to go, the crowds pushed me on so much, but I couldn't really acknowledge them or like smile or like get that kind of like positive feedback. It was just like pushing to the finish.
Yeah, and the experience, other than obviously not being able to enjoy the last part because of your quads, but compared to a Valencia, explain like the atmosphere compared, like is it the best marathon that you've done in terms of the crowds and that sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that like it's really hard to even like explain it. And I think Brady said too, like you got to just experience it and do it. But I feel like it honestly felt bigger than the Olympics or like World Championships for me. Like the on an elite side of things, just the way that we were treated, the hotel, everything around it, it just felt like such a well orchestrated event. So yeah, it definitely felt like
Yeah.
incredible, and like the crowd's just incredible, out of this world. Like Valencia is loud and pretty packed, and I think a lot of the majors are, but I just like the way the fanfare was and how into it they were was just like on another level.
And you've now done a few marathons where it's been either mixed or women's only. Which ones do you prefer?
Definitely mixed. Yeah, definitely. I think it's good to experience the women's only and to like put yourself in positions where it's a little bit uncomfortable and it replicates what you'll get in a championship experience. But yeah, there's no doubt that I enjoy like a fast flat course with men involved too. And I think there's just a time and place for that, and you have to sort of sorry, I'm having my holiday break and I'm not really as healthy as I usually am.
Right.
No, I think having like that sort of experience really makes me kind of want to go back and do a flat fast one with guys around me. But I just think you have to be able to put yourself in both situations.
Yeah. And look, I think the awesome thing about Boston is because women's only, like, especially when the pack's together early on in the race, like the spotlight is on you guys, you know what I mean? Whereas it's very easy for women to sort of get sort of not like
Lost
if you're
in it,
lost in a mixed race, whereas there's a big pack of women and that's the only ones that are on the course, so there's that spotlight on you, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely a huge part of like the benefit of doing women's only races, getting that like experience, atmosphere, and kind of like spotlight too, for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of your prep, like how did this one compare to all of your the marathons? Obviously, it's a hillier course, so did you change training for this one?
Yeah, like we definitely tried to do a bit more hills in there, but I think it's challenging because my last marathon being Valencia, like I was really, really cooked before that. I wasn't coming off like a good block or feeling confident. And it's just hard to start out a marathon block where you've kind of, your last training has gone really poorly. So I was definitely conscious of not to overdo it. I didn't want to kind of like redline anything. So everything was kind of a bit more controlled and not trying to like, overdo any area. So I kind of just kept things a little bit more like, I wasn't super aggressive, if that makes sense. I just kind of like ticked the box, got the training done, but my mileage was a little bit lower. It was like 180 to 190 instead of kind of pushing 200. I did gym religiously twice a week, which I thought was going to, help me a lot. And it probably did. Like my hamstrings and glutes are fine. I've been jogging since 3 days later. So like I've recovered really quite well. But I did, I think, 3 sort of what I thought were quite aggressive downhill, uphill runs. But just not fast enough, I don't think. Like they were just more like steady running, and it's just so different when you run your race pace.
Yeah. I heard on another podcast that you, sort of towards the back end of last year, you potentially had sort of just overcooked things a little bit.
Yeah.
What were the signs of that, and how long did it take to sort of feel normal again?
I think that potentially even on one of the podcasts, you might have called it happening like in the future. And it's like bound to happen, I think, if you bite off more than you can chew. I just did too much, I think. Like I didn't have a break. The track season was, awesome, but it was just very long and draining. And I kind of feel like I peaked at the wrong times when it comes to like the championships. So I think it's hard because after Tokyo I was disappointed, and then I ran really well, City to Bay and then Melbourne half. But then at some point along the way there, it kind of caught up to me, and I was so keen to run well in Valencia and feeling like I had to make up for not achieving my goals the year before in Valencia that I just pushed the envelope too much. And when I started to feel the signs of overtraining, which was like pushing harder but getting slower in training, and just like not recovering, I didn't really listen to myself, and I just kind of kept plowing through. And that meant I was doing sessions where, you know, I was running 2K reps in 3:35 pace, and I could normally run them in 3:15 pace. So it was, something was really wrong. And I just hoped that I would taper, and then like all the hard work will pay off and I'd still have a good run. But in hindsight, like running 2:23 there, like was a really good run for what I'd been doing in training for the last month ahead of that. But after Valencia, it still took me like probably until like, really like Maragami to feel like normal again. And like I was sort of enjoying training and, you know, doing sessions where I wasn't scared if I was going to just like suddenly start feeling terrible and start running slower. I kind of slowed down my threshold paces and all of my training so that I was just a bit more tick the box, like feel good, get it done, and not like wreck myself. And that really helped. But again, then I had to sort of prep for Boston, and, you know, do you add like a bunch of hills? As someone who doesn't normally even run hills, that would be probably too much of a stimulus to go like medium, long run session on hills. And gym, like I've been doing gym my whole life, but I haven't been as like religious about doing it twice a week, actually in the gym lifting heavy. So I thought that it was going to be a long build, you know, 9 weeks of like marathon training, but really I feel like I needed a lot more time to really properly condition myself for that sort of race.
Yeah.
And also, you know, naturally, maybe I'm just not that well suited to it, and I do need a bit more preparation. Whereas someone else might run really well there. I think Leanne, if she could have been healthy, would have run really well there. So just different runners too.
Do you pick the brains of, say, somebody like Jess McLean, who like had a great run on that course, about what they did in the lead up to sort of learn from them?
Yes and no. I think like I did chat to her quite a bit, and like I'm interested in her training, and she's coached by a guy called David Roach, who's like quite interesting. And like I chatted to her, but I think it's also important not to get like carried away with like picking out, you know, different things of different people, because it works differently for different people, and like you don't know the whole picture if you just kind of get like one piece of advice. But if anything I'd take away from all the people I've spoken to is like harder long runs are necessary, and I need more hard long runs to be prepared for those kind of races, and really for the marathon in general.
Yeah, it was actually going to be my next question. Was obviously you were found maybe lacking a little bit in terms of a strength point of view, or for a Boston course. But do you think that if you could get yourself conditioned better for a Boston course, it's going to help you for a flat marathon as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think so, for sure. I went into this feeling like I was like fittest and healthiest and strongest I'd ever been. So part of me is like, what the hell? Like, but I also realized that it will translate to a flat marathon too eventually. And so it's still like a good step forward of doing something different and learning that. And I think that in general, like, you know, runners, we get too obsessed with like the perfect route, you know, what the splits look like. And I am learning that like it's all about effort. And I do think that all of this kind of like strength and like different challenges is something that you should, you know, work on for those flat marathons too. So I'll definitely be taking that into the next one for sure.
Yeah. And as a pro athlete, like how far in advance are you locking in for Boston, and why did you want to do Boston as opposed to a London this year?
Yeah, I think I can't remember, when did the fields come out? January or December? I must have committed to it after New York Marathon. I think that's when all the managers like get together and the race organizers, and they kind of like plan the field for the next marathons coming up. So I knew that I'd do a marathon like in the spring, and I actually was planning on doing London. I think I actually was down for London in the like fields to start with. And then I was offered a spot in Boston as well. And the reason I was like, you know, I was weighing them up, but the reason I went with Boston was I was like, you know, it's a sort of a year with nothing to qualify for me. It's a good opportunity to do something different, to do a race that feels more like one that you wouldn't do in another year. And my mum was also doing it, so it's kind of like, well, that's kind of fun. And I just felt like the connection with London would probably always be there. And, it wasn't a lot of money either way, but Boston did give me like better appearance free. And so that was also put into that kind of decision for me. I was fortunate where I went to America and I won that beach to beacon race last year. So I think, like, honestly, on any other given year, I'd just be lucky to get a spot and a place in the hotel. So to get any sort of like financial bonus on top of that, it felt like, it was the year to use that to my advantage, that I was offered that. So yeah, that was kind of like all in all why I made the decision. But I think the main one was just like the off year for championships, and it feeling like it was a good opportunity to do something different.
Yeah. And what did you get up to sort of post race? Does Boston put on a big sort of party for the elites?
I actually chose to go to a bar with Brady and Jordan and some others, Riley as well. And we went to the Heartbreak like after party, and we ended up missing. There was one that the race put on for all the elite athletes and coaches and managers, but we kind of hopped around from that and then had a dinner with my mum and friends, so we couldn't do it all. But yeah, it was fun to celebrate for sure.
Yeah. What shoes did you wear race day?
I wore the Metaspeed Edge 5. So the 4 is the one that's currently on the market, and the 5 is coming out, I guess, probably soon. I'm not actually sure. But it's, like approved for athletes to wear it in races and such. I think the only difference is really it's very minimal. Like, you couldn't even really tell if you looked at the shoe itself. It just feels a little more stable. And for me, that's an important factor in the race shoes. I'm not too worried about them being lighter. I feel like they're all quite light. That's not like the biggest thing for me. It's about like the stability and how they hold up, over the marathon. And so like I'm really looking for a stable, quite, shoe that's not going to wear down underneath me. So yeah, they're really good. They're just a small improvement from the 4, but the 4 is a great shoe as well.
Yeah. And from a fueling point of view, so you're a precision fuel and hydration athlete. And I noticed on their social media, they'll often put up after somebody's raced all of the data in terms of like how many grams of carbs per hour, how much liquid and all that sort of thing. What did your fueling look like on the day?
Yeah, I actually need to contact their sports scientist and kind of do that like rundown thing afterwards, because I actually hit my biggest numbers ever in a marathon, which I think is positive, and I think it's one of the reasons I pulled up so well. I think I got down around 240 grams across the marathon of carbs.
Yeah.
So what I did was 1 calf gel just before the start, like walking to the start line. But they include that as part of like the overall, grams in the race. And then I did drink mix every 5K, and I did a mix of the carb only and the electrolyte and carb. So it worked out to be about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. And then I had 1 calf gel at halfway-ish, so I think 20K bottle. And then I had another calf gel. Oh, I had another calf gel, at 35K, just because I was like, I need this. That was my if I need it gel. And then so those bottles, I had 1 sip of my bottle, but I just had the gel instead of the mix. Yeah. So, but I still worked it out. What I consumed was probably close to 240, because I'd I'd drink the whole bottle for those first the 5K, 10K, 15K bottle, have a couple of sips with the gel for the 20 and 35K, but the others just drink them all.
Yeah.
Fueled pretty well.
How strong are you making the carb mix in those bottles?
Every bottle was 30 grams.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a 15 grams a scoop, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So 2 scoops essentially. I actually made them up the night before, and then I was like, oh no, I got it so wrong. So then I had to pour some out and remake it, because I realized I'd made them too strong sodium wise, and it was a cold day, so I really didn't want to overdo it on the sodium. But I think it's important still to have, I'm a high sweater, so even some of the photos I noticed some salt marks on my black shorts. So the sodium's still important even if it's cold.
Yeah, and from a daily training point of view, when you're doing your workouts, are you using the drink mix then, or do you normally use the gels?
I use a mix of both. I try and do drink mix because it's what I'm going to have more in the marathon, and I was lucky this time around that Riley rode the bike with me for a lot of my key sessions and long runs. I would look to get more from the drink mix, and then just have a calf gel to get that kind of caffeine top up too.
Yeah. So you went over a bit earlier, like you went over fairly early, didn't you?
Yeah, I did the same as what I've done for Valencia, which is going over 10 days before, 9 days before, and stay with that same family that hosted me last year for the Beach to Beacon, actually. So, yeah, it worked out well. It was like 2 hours out of Boston, similar weather, and get on the time zone. But I got on the time zone straight away, so I probably could have pushed it a little closer. But, I'm flying economy. I'm grateful the race, gets me over there on the plane, but not on Qantas, and no upgrades, no lounges. It's a tough 24-hour experience. But it was good to be on the time zone.
I was thinking before, it must be one of the perks of being maybe not the economy travel and all that sort of thing, but the amount of people that you meet from all different parts of the world. Like you can go to most places in the world now and probably know somebody and almost get like a local's perspective of living there. Which most people don't get to experience.
I am fortunate to have a lot of different connections, from my travels across the world. So it is nice, and I feel like it's a lot better when you're in a home environment versus just staying in an Airbnb or a hotel. It makes you feel really just relaxed and home cooked meals, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And look, I know that sometimes, just even the vibe of this interview, sometimes you're pretty, you have really high expectations of yourself, and sometimes you're a bit critical. But I went back and looked at your World Athletics profile, and your consistency, although the times probably aren't where you want to be, but since the end of 2023, you've had 5 marathons between 2:22:59 and 2:25. That's 2 minutes over a marathon is pretty good going. And when you consider, you're talking about you're running with Sarah Hall, and you put minutes into her over the last 10K. So although you haven't run as fast as you'd like to run, being consistent, I think, leads to potentially having a breakthrough.
I think so. And I really I do enjoy when people, touch on that and say I think Elise B can call me the queen of consistency, which is nice. I am quite proud of that because I know how hard it is as a professional athlete to get that. And I am very hard on myself. I feel like I'd have to run, exceptional to be really, really pleased with the result. But yeah, I'm quite happy because, I see a lot of times, you see these start lists come out and a lot of people don't make it, injuries. I've been really fortunate not to have any major injuries. While I haven't, I think, had that breakthrough performance in the marathon that I feel like I'm capable of, I'm still, improving in the sense of, I think, as you said, positive to get consistent results on the board. And it could be a lot worse. In the marathon, we know how hard it is. We see some pretty bad blow-ups pretty much in every race from different people of all levels. And, you can bleed a lot of time when it goes poorly. And I think I have to be quite proud that even though most of my marathons of the last couple of years, I feel like I've gone out hard, on pace, felt really good, and then something, different reasons, it's kind of been a tough second half. I've always hung really tough and gutted it out to be able to get a solid performance still. And I think that, as you said, hopefully one day the conditions will be right, my body will be good, and it will just click and I'll have that second half that I know is there. But yeah, I am really proud to be consistent, and I don't take it for granted because I know a lot of athletes struggle with consistency, and it's sort of my superpower. So I have to be happy with that.
And is it true that you're going all in on the roads now and you're sort of giving up the track, which then leads to the next question in, I guess, what's the next 6 months, 8 months, 10 months look like?
Yeah, I think last year I didn't want to do World Champs Marathon. I really had this goal of running on the track in the World Champs and, doing the 10K, and it all sounded good. And I had a great experience, doing the track season again and traveling and going to World Champs and running on the track. But it just solidified to me that I am a much higher level athlete on the roads than I am on the track. And I have to be really proud of making 2 Olympics in the track because I don't think naturally it's my best event. And I'm just well aware that, if I wanted to, I really do believe I could still run a PB. I could run 14:40 in the 5K, I'm sure. I've run 14:49. I think I've got a few more seconds to shave off. But I'm not kidding myself. I can't run 14:30. I'm just not quick enough. And I don't want to be coming fourth at Australian Championships or sixth. Yeah. I don't want to be, chasing standards in Europe when it just doesn't even really feel like within my grasp anymore. I think I've done that. I've enjoyed it, and it's sort of time to move on. And I'm sure I'll dabble in a 10K here and there if the timing works out. But yeah, I'm definitely just not fast enough for those championship 5Ks. Like, it was gut-wrenching in Paris. I missed the final by one spot, and it was like 0.02 of a second or something. And essentially I ran a 62 last lap. It's like the fastest lap I've ever run. And, you had to run 61 point. And it's just like, I was so close, but still just not good enough. So I think my future is on the roads, and the more I kind of dabble between the two, I'm sure it helps both of them, like to be strong on the track and then to be like fast for the roads. But I just feel like I'm putting off the inevitable, which is like being a marathoner. And that's where I'll have more success, have, more earning potential, and probably just enjoy it more too. So, I think 2026 is the year of going all in. And I will leave the track to those speedy girls who are ripping it up.
and I think it's a smart decision, because we've spoken about it out on the podcast as well, how you seem to never have like a break, because you're going from marathon to then international track season to then another marathon. And so being able to go all in on the roads means that you can sort of, I guess, have a bit more sort of downtime, build for races, as opposed to just being on all year round, which will probably lead to better results on the road anyway.
For sure. Like last year after Nagoya, which I think was my best marathon, like all in all, I think, 8-9 days later, I did a track session because I had track races coming up.
Yeah. So you went to Maury Plant, didn't you?
Yeah.
And there was that sort of, I think Julian
that was silly. Yeah. I mean, I still ran like decent, like 8:51 or something, but I just don't think I need that. And, I'm not old, I'm only 30, but I just feel like I need to be a little more, I'm grateful that my body's healthy, but I need to be like aware that I can't just ask it to do everything. It will give up on me eventually, whether that's an injury or just like overtraining syndrome or feeling shit or low iron. So yeah, like this time around, I've after the race, I was absolutely shot. I couldn't even sit on the toilet. My quads were so sore for 2 days. And then I think the second day, Riley was in the gym at our hotel, and I just thought, I'll sit on the bike for half an hour. I'll listen to Inside Running podcast. I was listening to Cam, just spinning my legs for 30 minutes, and I felt a lot better. And then the next day, Riley was going for a run, and our hotel didn't have a bike at the next hotel we were staying at in Portland for one night. I was like, I'll just go for a walk. Maybe I'll start running, just like jog with you to start with. And I just ran 30 minutes, and it was like my DOMs were gone. So I was just like, I recovered, even though I felt so bad for 2 days, I recovered so quickly. But even since then, like I've just run once a day. Today I did my longest run, around 16Ks, but I've been running 10Ks every day, and just being quite happy to be in this like break period, and actually excited to start training again. So I think that's a better mentality. And certainly if I had like a track season coming up, I just mentally couldn't do that.
No doubt you've seen Crokes' long runs on the weekend. Another big one out at Mulligan's, and of course it was powered by Precision Fuel and Hydration, a long-time supporter of the Inside Running podcast. Whether you're using the high-strength pH 1500 electrolytes to match a heavy sweat rate, or stacking the PF30 caffeine gels for your next marathon, their range is science-backed for performance. Precision Fuel and Hydration makes it simple with their 3 levers approach to calculate your carb, sodium, and fluid needs, which you can do via their online planner. It's the fuel that's trusted by Australian marathon legends Elisa Waitman and Izzi Batt-Doyle. Visit precisionhydration.com and create your personalised fuel strategy today, and use the code IRP2026 for 15% off your first order.
So does this mean now that we'll be seeing you on the roads in Australia over winter?
Yeah, I think that they just announced the Launceston Fields like last week. I'm doing the half there, so that's my next race. So I can't, completely do nothing. But again, like I'm excited to get back into it. If I'd pulled up horribly or like I had an injury, then I wouldn't be racing so soon. But I was like, as long as I pull up well and I feel good, like then I'll try and get ready for that. So yeah, I'll do Launceston half, I'll do Gold Coast half, and then I haven't picked a marathon for the second half of the year yet. But I also would like to do the World Road Running Champs, the half marathon. And I would say that I'm probably, pretty well, like a lock for that. I think would have run the fastest time. Like around 68 something in Maragami. So that'd be really cool to do too.
And in terms of marathons, is like Valencia most likely the one that you'd like to do at the end of the year?
It's hard. Like I would love to do Valencia again. Done it 3 times, been done before. And I think, I want to go back there and get it right. But I feel like I might want to do it before then because that's December.
Yeah.
It feels like a bit of a long time away. But it really depends on, the other major marathons, what that looks like, whether it's Sydney or one overseas, the timing, having to consider is World Running Champs, is that just like to get another Oz singlet and to go and have an experience, or like am I trying to go and like be top 5, top 10 medal, like what's the goal there? Because I think you could do a marathon like 3 weeks before or after, but you'd have to kind of trade in which one is more important.
Yeah.
So they're things to start considering, but I haven't really locked anything in yet.
And I guess even as a pro athlete, from a financial point of view, my understanding is that Valencia, yes, you get the opportunity to go and run fast times, but from a financial point of view, you're probably better off doing some other marathon.
Definitely. I think it's, you trade off like the flat, fast courses usually for not getting an appearance fee of the same level. But I think we have to do that all year round. Like I could have, got a much bigger appearance fee for doing Nagoya Marathon, but I've done that before a couple of times and it wasn't going to be the same experience as doing a major. So, pacing there was really cool. But I guess you have to factor in like what's most important to you at the time. And probably for me, like doing Sydney would be the most financially beneficial opportunity. But does another marathon that sort of really excite me? I'm not sure yet. And, how many can you fit into a year? That's another question too. But I'm really fortunate. I've done Valencia a few times and got a really good relationship with the race because I kind of like funded my own way. The first year came 10th and then came back the next year and they sort of, put me in the hotel, gave me an appearance fee and then came 8th. And I feel like, in anything in life, like relationships are really important. So I have been really well looked after there.
Yeah. And before I let you go, thoughts on what we saw in London?
Yeah, when I saw the results, I was like, damn it, like I should have done London. Just because the women's field, as like strong as it was on the pointing end, it was sort of like lacking a bit of depth. And I think I could have been, it's very easy to say I could have been, but just the athletes who ran and kind of the times they ran, I feel like I could have been top 6, definitely in the top 10, without a doubt. So it was kind of like, damn, I could have got that top 10, like, in that race. But I think that London will be there for me in the future, as I said. Seeing 2 hours broken by 2 athletes, I was like quite shocked, I have to say. But then again, nothing's really shocking me in the running world these days. It's like incredible performance after incredible performance. I think the craziest thing is like Jacob Kiplimo running like 2 hours 30 and like not even being in the conversation. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty impressive, but I just keep focusing on like sort of the goals that I'm setting out for myself and don't get too carried away with the rest of the running world.
I love from the men's point of view that so many times over the last 5, 6, 7 years, anytime that somebody's run super quick, whether it's been Kipchoge or Kiptum, it's basically been a time trial like once the pacemakers drop off. So the fact that there were like 3 of them there on close to 2 hour pace for the most of the race, I reckon that was a big contributing factor in terms of them pushing each other.
Definitely. It seemed like that was something that doesn't happen that often, to have things so close together in one of those really fast races. And just the weather must have been really good too. It looked like it was sunny, but not hot or warm or anything. So yeah, it was obviously a really good day. And I mean, the women's race too was pretty cool. Like I wasn't really going for either one of them, but just like, Helen Oberia getting out kicked is probably not something that you'd expect to see too, and she looked pretty like disappointed to not get that win. But yeah, that was a really good race up front too.
Well, thank you, Izzi. It's always great to catch up with you. We'll have to get you back on the main show when you're back in Australia, maybe after Launceston or Gold Coast, I reckon.
Yeah, definitely, that'd be good. Always happy to come on. I feel like you didn't ask me as many questions as I thought. Being let off easy.
Anything else you think we should talk about or missed?
No, not really. I just thought you might dive into my training a bit more and try and get all the deets on all the sessions. But
yeah, I suppose in terms of like you're still off Strava.
Yeah, no, I'm still off Strava, and that's a shame with traveling because sometimes I feel like it is cool to like show your runs when you're in different places. But I have to say, like overall, I'm enjoying just not feeling like, I feel like just, I'm pretty active on all social media. So just to have like my training to myself is kind of feels a bit nice to be a bit private, but try and still share some stuff on YouTube. I've got I filmed in Boston for like a YouTube video. So I just got to put that together and hopefully get some stuff out.
I guess one of the reasons I sort of didn't delve too much into your specifics of training is like, I feel like the MTC marathon block, it's very similar, like almost. I guess the one thing you said you did differently was, a bit more over some hills, but as you said, not fast enough. But does this sort of make you think about maybe potentially changing the marathon blocks that you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that when I like sort of dissect the training and think about in the future, like I think more, as I said, like more harder long runs is something that would be beneficial. And I think it can be challenging because a lot of the runners, especially in Australia, we come from a track background. So it's sort of like you're a really good track athlete and then you kind of just trying to extend that threshold out a little bit longer. And then you can run some really good marathons. But I think it gets to a point where you have to kind of take another step or mix things up a little bit to kind of get that next level. So, I'll definitely be trying to just do a few more like longer, harder runs and looking at where I can make some improvements in training for sure.
Yeah. And from a session point of view in the lead up to these, like when you're doing your 5K reps or whatever, were they on par with what you'd done in the past or because you'd sort of come from that overtraining period, you were dialing things back? And so maybe on paper, the splits weren't quite as quick, but you're still actually in pretty decent shape.
Yeah, I think so. I did a lot of my sessions, like I used to do them on this like 2K loop around Botanic Park, which is pretty flat. Whereas we did a lot more of our sessions like along the Torrens, which is a bit more undulating. It's just like I thought that undulation would be enough, but I think that you almost need to do like some kind of sessions where the time goes completely out the window because you're running up such a big hill, you're coming down such a big downhill that the time's like irrelevant. And you're just running more to like time or effort. But because we were doing them on a little bit more undulation, like they were slower, but usually finishing faster once I got onto the flat section for the last couple of K. And that gave me the feeling that I was going well if I could kind of start a session running 326s to 28s, but then finish the last kind of couple Ks at like 315, 316.
Yeah.
So it is much harder to kind of compare when you're doing sessions, on like a different course. But I think that's really positive. I think you can get a bit like stale of just doing the same course and trying to hit the same splits. And that's also one reason I think it can be challenging doing the same marathon block over and over is you just get like, you're comparing the same splits you ran last time. And it could be completely different factors like weather and all sorts too. So.
And you're trying to then, you're often then trying to beat what you did last time, which then sort of means you maybe overdoing it, not in the right zone anymore. Exactly, do you use for these undulating ones, and obviously knowing that pace is going to be a bit slower, is that all purely off feel, or do you use heart rate data at all?
Now I'm actually only just literally since the first week of this training block, like 10 weeks ago, I've been using the Chorus heart rate armband. Before then I just wore like a normal watch that had wrist heart rate, and so I wasn't quite as dialed into it. But now having the armband, like I do actually pay a bit more attention to it, and like I'm just a bit more dialed into like what that looks like and when it kind of peaks and seeing how your heart rate kind of like does just naturally climb the longer you're out there, regardless of the effort. So that has been helpful. I've never used lactate or that kind of thing, but I'm also kind of interested in that too, just because probably of how bad I felt last year in training, just trying to like make sure you're controlling it a little more. I think it is good, but heart rates is definitely an important thing for me for sure.
Well, I reckon those Coros armbands, like they're a game changer because over the last 25 years of even my own running, like I would wear a heart rate strap potentially for training, but there's no way I would ever race with a heart rate strap.
Exactly.
Whereas now I'm actually racing with and getting heart rate data from races, which can actually be helpful, which I've never had in the past.
Yeah, I wore the strap for the race, and it was the first time I've had like accurate heart rate data for a race, and I think that's really quite helpful because in the past I'd say like, oh, my heart rate for a marathon's like 163, but it's probably you're just going off your watch wrist heart rate, so like how accurate is that? But I think this can give you a more accurate gauge to then go back in training and be like, okay, that's the heart rate zone that I got to in the marathon, and have more understanding of that for sure.
Definitely. All right, before I let you go, we need an intro and an outro song.
Oh, that's so hard. I'm like, I have to say, I haven't looked at the what they've done with the like top 10 song countdown stuff. This is very hard. I'm looking at my Spotify now. Got any like Boston? Is there any like Boston themed or like American songs we can have? Any that comes to mind?
I don't know. I'll have a
Maybe
think.
Party in the USA
Ooh,
by Miley Cyrus.
That's a good one. Yep. All right, that's one down.
Gonna go with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I did listen to in this block. I feel like I listened to like a bit of Kanye West, Power. That could be a bit of a building song, like Up Heartbreak Hill. I'm trying to think like if they were
Power.
Sounds right.
All right. So what do you generally listen to from a music point of view?
I listen to what Spotify gives me on like the Spotify playlists, like literally the day lists and stuff. But I'd say like just more like, I don't know, basic pop / indie pop. Yeah. But then when I'm running, I'd listen to more like I don't know, probably like pop / rap R&B, like B kind of stuff. But I feel like I need to get this. Is there a Spotify like playlist for the Is There Running like countdown?
There will be, yeah. So okay. I'll send you through the link actually. So on Patreon, every time Brady released an episode, they updated it. So I think at the moment there's a playlist of the top 30, but I believe the plan is to actually have like a list of the top 100, top couple of 100.
Yeah, because I feel like there's so many, when I'm just scrolling through the post from different like hosts from the shows, there's like some that I was like, I have no idea of any of these songs.
Yeah, I didn't know. Most of the UK ones I didn't have much of an idea, but
I'm not an artist. I don't really know artists. I just like know songs.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, the top 10 was good. Like I knew pretty much all of those songs. So
yeah, cool.
Very good. All right. Thanks again, Izzy, and all the best with Launceston and Gold Coast.
Thank you. Will you see you at any of those?
Definitely not Launceston. Gold Coast, I'm not sure. We're not at this stage. We're not podcasting up there this year.
Okay.
And it's Collis's birthday around that time. But Ryan from Gold Coast messaged me last week asking whether I'd be interested in doing some pacing.
Pace job 67. Let's go.
I think he's referring more to the marathon.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. But anyway, all the best. Thanks again.
Thanks, Fred. All right, see ya.
Thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this episode. Precision Fuel and Hydration is the answer to fuel your next marathon. Their free online planner helps you nail your sodium and carb intake so you don't fade when it matters most. Visit precisionhydration.com, and while you're there, place your first order and get 15% off when you use the code IRP2026.